Welcome, dear listeners, to broadcasts from elsewhere. I'm your host, Enigma, and December is upon us now, so welcome to the very first episode of our Christmas specials. We're going to be covering a lot of obscure, bad, or cult classics of the Christmas genre. I really hope you enjoy these. Up first today is a little movie called Elfette Saves Christmas, which is surprisingly from 2019. Honestly, when I was watching it, I was almost certain it came from like the early 2000s, but no, it's just bad. It's just such low production value that it makes it feel like it's older. But Elfette Saves Christmas is a Christmas movie, obviously. It was straight to streaming, as far as I can tell. There's not really a lot to find about it online. There's like no Wikipedia page on it whatsoever. You look at the IMDb and whatnot, but they don't really tell you a lot about it aside from the actual like plot synopsis, of course. Almost nobody of note is in this movie either. There's a bunch of like unknown people, so you're not going to recognize anybody, which is not a bad thing always. But in this movie, it kind of is because no one really knows how to act that well. A lot of the people in this movie just cannot act, or just overact to the point of insanity. But I digress. This movie is about the mafia kidnapping Santa Claus, and the one elf who can save him is, of course, the titular Elfette. And I think the only reason she's the one chosen is because she's the only person that's away from the North Pole, basically, when it happens. Just like, so dumb. But, you know what, we're here for it, so that's about all the synopsis I can give you right now, because I couldn't find a lot on this movie otherwise to talk about, but if you want to check it out beforehand, it is on Tubi, of course, and I saw it's also streaming on Peacock, believe it or not, strangely enough. But, yeah, it's free on Tubi, so if you loan cash, there you go. But without further ado, let's get into the awkward mess of a plot in this movie. It's a weird one. So, of course, we start off in North Pole. At least it's supposed to be the North Pole. It looks more like a fucking department store, like, Christmas section, because it's literally just a bunch of Christmas trees, like, in the middle of the room, and then a bunch of, like, work tables. And it's, like, fold-out work tables. It's not even, like, a desk or something. No, it's, like, a fucking fold-out table like you take to a swap meet or something. Anyways, we see a little countdown calendar to show us that that's 5 days to Christmas. And we meet our titular Elfette. She's working on making wrapping paper. That is her job, is to design wrapping paper. Which I would think that would be a human's job, not an elf's job, because, I mean, humans are the ones that sell wrapping paper after all. Now I know that I guess they have to wrap the presents in-house for Santa to, like, take, but I don't know, it just seems like a waste of resources when you could just, wrapping paper costs like 99 cents, like, a bundle. I can't imagine manufacturing your own is much cheaper, considering you have to get, like, contractors and everything. It'd be a mess. Why am I focusing on the fucking retail aspects of this movie? I don't know. It's not like this movie makes any sense anyways. Anywho, we also see her attempt to help out in some other sections, and try to help with, like, the other elves with their different tasks that they're tasked with, like the toy builders or some other people are just using, like, glitter on something. I don't really know what they were doing, but she spills the glitter, so she fucks up at everything, basically, that she tries to do. But she's feeling out of place, and, like, she doesn't want to be at the North Pole, so she books a trip on, like, some kind of, like, Elf TripAdvisor knockoff thing, and she books a trip to Florida, of all places, which is, like, honestly, I know she doesn't know anything about, like, the outside world, probably. Or maybe she does, because it's very confusing on its lore about that. But, she, like, I feel like there's better places in Florida that you could go to. I mean, she goes to the beach in Florida, so I guess there's that, but still, there's a lot better places you could have vacationed at than Florida. Regardless, after she books her trip, we get to see a little commercial play for a brand new product, the Pencil Phone Z. And this is how you know that the prop department was just, like, out of money, because it's literally just a number 2 pencil. That's it. They don't make it look special or anything. It's literally they just took a number 2 pencil out of a box, took a big box of like Ticonderoga fucking pencils or whatever, and was just like passed them out to the crew and was like, here you go, this is your prop. And it looks so dumb whenever they do it. Whenever anyone tries to use it, because it's like, it's the way they swipe around on it and stuff, like to make it look like it has an interface, makes no sense, because it looks like it maybe would have like a holographic interface or something, because like the way they swipe off of the pencil and around the pencil and all these other things, and then you just press like the eraser to hang up or some shit. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Of course she plays for that, and we see a little girl like begging her parents for it, which, honestly, I imagine you could probably just give her a pencil, and she wouldn't know the difference. Like, give her an actual writing pencil, she probably wouldn't know the difference. It's not like she has anyone to call, she's like 5. But anyways, after that we get to see a boardroom meeting at Joytech, which is the company that makes this phone. They also apparently make toys, which is very strange. That'd be like if Hasbro made the iPhone. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you don't just... I mean, granted, Nintendo was also a toy company originally, until they started making game consoles. But, still. Regardless of all that, though, they're having a meeting because apparently when Santa gives out the pencil phones for Christmas, it eats up their profits because he's giving them away for free. So basically, if the person is getting a phone for free, they're not going to go out and buy their pencil phone, they're just going to ask Santa Claus for it. So they're basically losing money. Which I have to ask, though, how the fuck is Santa Claus making a pencil phone? They allude to the idea later on that he has a, gift-making machine, but they never really confirm it, because Santa Claus denies its existence, more or less. And even if you did, how would that work? Is it just magic and it just, can magically pop out anything you desire? Because that could be dangerous. And I'd much rather see a movie about that. About what kind of dangerous things the gift machine could make. Because that would be really fucking interesting. And you would think that a movie about Santa Claus being kidnapped by the Mafia would be interesting, but it's actually more confusing than anything. Because they don't actually behave like Mafia people most of the time. Except for maybe one person, and even he's a little questionable as far as that goes. Regardless. Sorry, I keep going off the tangents, but there's a lot to talk about with this movie plot-wise. Maybe not be a lot to talk about production-wise, but there's a lot to talk about plot-wise. So, they come to the agreement during this boardroom meeting that since he's such a problem that they need to find a way to get rid of him. So they have this new guy that they bring in, and they call him the waste management, quote-unquote, person. And really what he is he's the leader of the New York Mafia, apparently. I assume he's the leader, at least. They don't really say that, I don't think, but that's what he's supposed to be, apparently, according to, the plot summary. But, anyways, so we then see him, the Mafia man, go to the North Pole. Also, I just have to reference the fact that apparently, so Santa Claus canonically does exist in this universe. Everybody knows about him. So that must be really freaking confusing for people, to celebrate as well, because, you don't even have to worry about, there's no point in actually buying anyone else a present, I would say. I mean, I guess because Santa Claus can give everything. And then also the fact that there's some people who still, despite the fact that they know Santa Claus and elves exist, there's still people in here who are, confused about the fact that Elfette is actually an elf or something. It's what do you mean? Clearly they exist, so anyways, I'll be here all day if I complain about this movie. Anyways, we see the Mafia man, his name is Georgie, by the way. We don't learn that until halfway through the movie, which is really annoying, but he comes into the North Pole entrance or whatever, the toy shop entrance. He has a little blue present in his hands, right? He goes up to there's a receptionist elf there, and he tells her, hey, I'm looking for Mr. and Mrs. Claus or whatever, and she doesn't really say anything to him. She just kind of I guess buzzes him in or whatever, because she's on the phone chatting with I guess another elf or whatever. So she just presses a button on her phone's keyboard, and he just walks on by. And as he walks on, he opens up the present, and it's got a gun inside. And at first I thought this was about to get, actually, dark and cool, but no. It turns out it's just a freeze ray, because you gotta be family appropriate, I suppose, which is lame. But, whatever. So he has a freeze ray thing that kind of looks like a revolver that he just shoots, and there's, these really bad, blue CGI things that cover them, and then they just kind of turn into ice blocks. So he freezes, a bunch of the elves, I guess all the elves, technically, supposedly. And we see Santa Claus, panicked in his office as Jordy is approaching him. And he makes a phone call, and we see Elfette and some other elf whose name is Sparkles, or maybe just Sparkle, but Sparkles sounds better personally. Either way, she's the lady who runs the elf TripAdvisor thing, so elf vacation services. So she and Elfette are on the beach together, sunbathing and whatnot. They get a call from Santa Claus, but Elfette just ignores it, which is so mean. But also based, because think about it, if your boss calls you when you're on vacation, you'd probably ignore it too. I know I would. In fact, I probably have in a past job. Because it's if I'm on vacation, I'm not coming to work. That's how vacation works, especially if I'm in a different area. In her example, she's in a freaking human world, in a different area, a different country entirely, basically, because the North Pole is a different country, more or less. I would say a different continent, at least. Anyways, first she ignores it, then we see Santa Claus gets a sack put over his head, and he's taken away, and then Elfette's talking to Sparkles in that, and she asks her, how did you get away from this at this time? Because, it's still, a few days till Christmas right now. And apparently she, bribed all her bosses, question mark? Some other elf. She bribed him with cookies, and that let her go to the place somehow? Sure, why not? Also, this movie made me very hungry for sugar cookies, because there's sugar cookies in, so many scenes. I really want to make sugar cookies now, and I don't have the ingredients for it, so it's okay. Anywho, we then get a very, overdramatic call from another elf. It's a video call. And she tells the two of them, what happens about everyone being frozen and Santa Claus being kidnapped, and they're like, Elfette! They literally said, Elfette, you have to save Christmas! And so Elfette and Sparkles leave the beach, and they go back to, Sparkles' place, I guess. But, I will give it this. At least this movie about kidnapping Santa Claus got to the point of kidnapping Santa Claus a lot quicker. They definitely did not beat around the bush. They got right to the point on it with that plot line. Much quicker than Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, because that took 50 minutes to get to it. But I still might check out that movie, FYI, at some point, but not right now. Not this time. Maybe next year. We'll see. Back to Elfette, though. So, they go back to Sparkle's place, and Sparkles gives her this box of, different, weaponry and whatnot, I guess you could say, really. It's not really weaponry. Also, she doesn't use, most of it, so it's really pointless that she even gives her this, it seems, but, whatever. But in the box, there's some things glitter puffs, she calls them, which turn out to be smoke bombs, basically. A belt, for some reason, which is belonging to the Grand Elf Council or something like that. I really don't. But it's this old elf, hierarchy group or whatever that used to protect the elves or something. It's barely relevant, honestly. She also gives her some candy canes, which are supposed to be currency apparently, but I guess also her food, because later she tells her that she should eat the candy canes instead of human food, so I don't know. As well as some silver tinsel that's supposed to help her rewind time apparently, so that's already overpowered. Oh, and lastly, there was some kind of it was kind of hard to understand what they were saying, because I couldn't really turn on subtitles for this movie, because the subtitles were lagging for some reason, so it was kind of hard to figure out some of the things. But I think they call it powdered penguin, which, first of all, sounds inhumane, and second, it somehow gives you a caffeine boost, apparently. It's Monster on steroids, is what it seems like, based on how they show it off later. But, so anyway, she gives her all those different things, and, she sends Elfette off to go save Christmas, you know. So she has to go to New York now since, you know, she's all the way in Florida. So road trip time, you know. But Sparkles says she can't stay behind because she has a different mission to attend to, and Elfette assumes that she means her, they call it her vacation service, basically. And she agrees with that, but of course, you know, it's not just about that, as we'll later learn. So, then Elfette gets a fucking, like, motorcycle or dirt bike out of, like, nowhere. She just has it, because she's like, oh, but how am I gonna get there? And then it just transitions to her, like, getting on a fucking dirt bike, and it's like, where did you get that from? Like, did Sparkles give it to you? I assume she did, because she's the only person who could have given it to you. But it doesn't matter, because she immediately crashes it, and we get the best VFX of an explosion. It definitely did not look like it. It definitely looked like it definitely belonged in that scene. It was, you know, so totally believable, guys. I promise. And we also see some random dude just, like, kind of taking pictures of her after she crashes and she gets up and whatnot. It's just some random weirdo, like, behind a tree, just taking pictures of her and being like, oh. You know, well, this guy right here that we're about to meet is the most cartoonish fucking villain I've seen in a live-action movie, I think. One of the most, at least. I don't really do design-wise, I just mean, like personality-wise, he's so fucking cartoony. It's ridiculous. But, we then get to see the same guy, the same weirdo who was capturing footage of her in his home, and he's for some reason shirtless in this scene. He's wearing, like, an apron, but the apron is see-through, like it's plastic, so you can still see, like, his abs and stuff. It's like, what was the point of that? Like, did we need to have a fucking abs shot of this random-ass villain man? I don't think we did, honestly, but we got one anyway. So he's looking through his, like, it's supposed to be his homemade cookbook, and it's, like, basically a recipe for, like, elf stew. But I think it's funny, it's supposed to be a homemade cookbook, I assume, because it looks very homemade, and he refers to it later as his cookbook, so I assumed he means this as it's his cookbook that he made, not his cookbook that he owns. But, anyways, he for some reason titled the book Cooking Elves for Dummies, which is appropriate for him, honestly. Yeah, so he wants to cook up the elves for some reason, which I feel like, wouldn't that be a form of cannibalism? Like, I realize that the elves are probably like a separate species from human, like maybe a subspecies, or maybe we're the subspecies from them, one way or another. The point is, eating another humanoid being is very strange to me. Like, for example, in the example of, like, Gargamel and the Smurfs, that makes a little more sense that you would want to eat them, because, like, they're basically like little gremlins, you know, or whatever. They're not, like, human. They have some human aspects to them, perhaps, but they're tiny, and they're more like a fairy type thing. So that's a little more understandable. Still weird, but a little more understandable. But Elfette is just a straight-up human girl with elf ears, basically. So this man literally is wanting to commit cannibalism. So yeah, congratulations. We have canonical cannibalism in this Christmas movie already. And it's only about, like, 15 minutes in. So yeah. So while he's looking at his recipe and whatnot, he's, like, getting a few things ready, like shaving some carrots and whatnot. Georgie calls him up and tells him that he has to take care of Elfette. Tells him it doesn't matter how he does it, you know, shoot her or whatever, just make it easy, get it over with. We then get a scene. At first I thought it was really strange because it felt, like, unrelated to everything, because it's just two random ass men arguing about, like, a car's price. And there's, like, this redheaded dude and the dealership man. The redheaded guy keeps trying to, like, talk down the dealership owner. Like, he tries to, like, no, I'll do it for 12, or do it for this, do it for 10, I think it was at one point. And Elfette just comes up and she's like, I'll do it for 15, and she hands him, like, a bag, like a little gift bag. And the guy just is like, sold, and gives her the keys. Like, he doesn't even look inside first, which is to his detriment, because as she gets in the car and drives off, he sees that all she gave him was a bunch of candy canes. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the candy canes in the box, that Sparkles gave her, were supposed to be, like, currency, because she says that they're candy canes that are accepted worldwide as currency or something to that effect. But clearly they're not, because when this guy opens up the bag and he sees that there's candy canes in there, he's, like, upset. So he clearly does not think this is money. He thinks that it's fucking candy, you know? So she technically stole that car. And she's never, like, that's never comes back either. She doesn't get, like, reprimanded for that or anything. You'd think they'd have some kind of continuity where, like, you know, the police are after her now because of the fact that she stole a car, you know, or something. But no, it doesn't come back. It's not important, apparently. But the dealership guy does, like, shove the candy in the red-headed guy's hands, and he runs away trying to catch her, but obviously he doesn't, because she's in a fucking car. But, after she steals a car, she heads by this restaurant, and she get food, I guess, basically. And the chef guy, by the way, his name is Ernest. We also don't learn that until about, like, an hour into the movie. So, thanks, guys. Anywho, Ernest is his name. And he's in disguise in the kitchen of the restaurant. So she ends up ordering some peppermint pancakes because it's like the only thing that she like would recognize because of the fact that like she's apparently like elves live on like a peppermint based diet, I guess. It's so dumb. But even stupider is when Ernest is in the back room trying to sabotage your food. He has 2 vials, both labeled with a P. One is green and one is red. And apparently one of them is poison and one of them is peppermint flavoring. And he's just sitting there being a fucking dumbass. He's like, I don't know which is which. One's poison, one's peppermint, but they're both labeled with a P. And it's like, dude, it doesn't matter which is which. Just pour them both on there. Like, pour them both on there and you'll be fucking golden because it doesn't matter which one's which. So if they're both on there, then she's gonna get fucking dead anyways. So, like, unless the fucking peppermint, like, neutralizes the toxin, which even if it did, there's already peppermint in the pancakes, so it wouldn't matter. So, this assassin just is the worst assassin ever. Anyways, so he's hopeless as fuck, and she gets a text from Sparkles before the pancakes come over, though, and she's like, don't eat the human food. The text says, like, don't eat the human food, just eat your candy canes that I gave you. And it's like, I thought the candy canes were currency, so they're food too. So it's like money that you can eat, because that's a very bad decision to make. Especially because we learn the value of like the candy canes later on. So it's like, imagine if you could take a dollar bill out of your wallet and just eat it. Okay, I guess you could technically do that, but imagine if it was actually food. Like, imagine if your fucking like dollar bill was like made of cake or some shit. Like, how would anyone buy anything? Because, like, it's so dumb. It's so fucking dumb. Anyways, she completely ignores that text anyways because her food is brought out almost immediately after she gets that text. And she just scarfs it down and eats it anyways. And she starts to fall asleep after eating it, and the chef guy, originally, Ernest, thinks that maybe he actually got it done, like he killed her. But it's like, it's so obvious that she's just taking a nap, because she does like the little like folds her hands under her head thing and like lays down in the booth, and it's like bro, she's clearly not dead. She's clearly taking a nap. Like, she's doing the fucking cartoon ass fucking sleeping pose. Of course she's not dead. The waiter comes by and offers her some coffee, but she declines, and because first she doesn't know what coffee is, and second, then she brings out this vial of the powdered penguin stuff I mentioned earlier. She just like kind of downs a bit of it, and just like she starts zipping around like fucking the Flash or whatever, and just leaves. She didn't pay for her food either, by the way. So that's 2 things she's stolen now. She's stolen a car, and she's stolen the food. It's not the last thing that she steals either. There's at least one other thing here coming up. But the chef, the waiter, takes the vial with him because she just leaves it there after taking some of it. She just takes some of it, zooms away like the fucking Flash, and leaves the vial behind on the table. So he takes the vial with him. That doesn't come back either, though, by the way. There's no point to that. So, hooray. So then we get a scene of Georgie talking to Santa Claus, where they have him like kidnapped in, I think it's supposed to be a cabin or something. It's really hard to tell, honestly, what it's supposed to be. It's just some random ass room. that I suppose is in New York, apparently. We learn a few things. He just basically explains to Santa Claus that, the same thing we were explained about in the boardroom, about how they all, how giving away the pencil phone Z thing for free is hurting their bottom line and whatnot. And he also does explain this pencil phone costs $999, which I have to say is way too much money for this thing, because they do even show, how easily it can be broken in one of the later scenes, because somebody snaps it in their hands, because it's a fucking pencil. And I know, a lot of, top-of-the-line phones can be pretty fragile and whatnot, but not that fragile. You can't just take, an iPhone or something and just, snap it in half with your bare hands, unless you're, fucking strongman contestant or some shit, I bet. But, it's not something that a normal person can just take and just, snap. Anyways, sorry, I keep diverting from the topic at hand. Well, from the scene at hand, rather. So George explains that he knows they have this gift machine that if Santa Claus will just tell them where the gift machine is and how they can use it and whatnot, because then they could use the machine to make the phones, that, if he just tells them that, he'll let them go, and he'll let the elves live, otherwise they're all dead, The next one, he says, I'll give him a permanent snow day as, his threat of killing the elves. That sounds more pleasant than anything. You're kidding me? A snow day? That's, a good thing. That's what you usually have when, school's out, school's canceled because there's a snowstorm or something. Oh, it's a snow day, Anyways. Then we get a scene at the gas station, and this is slightly important, because one, this is the third crime that Elfette will commit here, because, so Elfette has to pump some gas for her daughter because she's out of gas, right? And she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing at first. And there's another elf next to her, at least we think it's another elf, but it actually turns out to be a mall actor elf, With the ones that'd be the Santa Claus's, lap-sitting thing at the mall. So, anyways, she has to teach her how to fucking pump gas, because, she tries to, put it on the roof, or put it inside the back seat, the gas pump that is, and obviously it doesn't work. But, so then she puts it inside the right place and starts pumping her gas. But, once again, she never pays for it, so that's 3 things that she's stolen. She's stolen a car, some gas, and the food that she ate earlier. Will her list of crimes continue to grow? Probably. I don't remember exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something else in these notes that I forgot about. But that's at least 3 crimes, or at least 3 things that she's stolen, so that's great. It's probably a little more than a misdemeanor at this point, right? Anyways, the mall also tells her that she should go visit this man named Bart at this warehouse, apparently, if she's serious about being an elf. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I assume she means, if you're really being real and saying that you're an elf. And elves canonically exist in this world, and everyone knows it, apparently. Well, who knows? We then get a scene where Sparkles has, this whole ass, murder board, basically, on the whole kidnapping scheme. And it's okay, so she knows what's happening, and she's working on this case. So why again is she not helping Elfette? What is the point? What is the fucking point of her not helping Elfette at this moment? Because she does later on in the movie. She does help her in the movie later on. But not yet. Not right now, for some reason. And there's really no reason for it other than, having, a wire-revealed fucking plot point. It's so dumb. Oh, and also, there's a fucking continuity error in my opinion here, because she has a picture of Santa Claus on the murder board thing, where he's already tied up in the cabin. How the fuck did she get a picture of him tied up if he's currently tied up? Does she have a live feed? Watching them? How else would she have gotten that picture? How the fuck This movie is so fucking stupid. So stupid. So we do get a little flashback here because she sees a picture of her mother that she has on her desk, and it triggers a flashback to her mother telling her about how she must help like the whole Grand Elf Council, because her mother was part of the Grand Elf Council. That's where she got the belt that's from it. Sorry, it's the Grand Elf Guild, I forgot, sorry, not the Council, the Guild. Same difference though, who cares? But for some reason her mother explains that while she has to like help protect the elf kind, that she has to do it from outside of the North Pole for some reason. Like, that truly makes no sense, and there's no reason for that I can understand, but sure, why not? After that, we revert our focus back to Elfette, and she's going to that warehouse that the mole elf had told her about. She's going upon it. I think she witnesses a drug deal, honestly. I honestly don't fucking know. All I know is some dude is loading up this guy's truck with some stuff in a very shady way, and the guy gives him like a huge wad of cash. So I'm going with this, yes, this fucking toy store, or whatever the fuck this warehouse is for, just casually has a fucking drug trade going on in the back rooms, so that's great. But the guy who possibly just dealt some drugs to this man, guides us back to meet Bart, and so we meet Bart, and he is this fucking weird-ass dude with a very odd, like, accent. I can't really tell you what it's supposed to be, because I don't fucking know what it's supposed to be. It kinda almost sounds Irish a bit. And there's another character with this accent as well later on in the movie. And I don't know what they're supposed to be doing, because it's almost like a leprechaun accent or some shit. Like, you know, like a fucking, like, very stereotypical Irish accent. It's so dumb. Anywho, he tells her that he has some kind of thing that can help her out, and he runs off to go find it. First he brings back some kind of Halloween artifact, but he realizes it's the wrong thing and goes back for it to find the right thing. She at this point just wanders off. Instead of waiting for him to come back, she wanders off and wanders around the warehouse. We also see that Ernest followed her here, so he's like creeping around the warehouse as well. Not that it matters anyways, but whatever. She finds this like radio device and brings it back with her. And she goes back to where she was waiting at for Bart to come back. And Bart sees the radio thing, he's like, oh my god, you found it. You found it. And why don't you just think about this for a second. So, we have a Christmas device that can help, like, bring back the spirit of Christmas and all that kind of stuff, right? Like Deus Ex Machina of Christmas devices, right? What do you think it's called, huh? Go ahead, take a guess. You won't be right, but go ahead, take a guess. Hey, ready? It's called the Twinkometer. The fucking Twinkometer. I swear to you, that when they said the word the Twinkometer, when they said that, I had to pause the movie, because I had to sit there and laugh my fucking ass off for a few minutes, because I got so thrown off by the fact that this thing is called a Twinkometer. Are you fucking kidding me? They attempt to explain what it does, but it doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to, like, have something to do with, like, the twinkles of Christmas, whatever the fuck that means. It does not explain it at all. It's basically, like I said earlier, it's a Deus Ex Machina. It's basically just, there to be there. So, it doesn't even end up being relevant anyways. They don't even fucking use it in the movie. They try to, but it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. So, the Ernest, the chef guy, is watching her as she receives this device also, by the way. And he just, like, watches from the shadows and is like, Elf's got a new toy! Or some stupid line like that. And he doesn't try to, like, do anything about it. Like, dude, you just witnessed her receiving the, like, one thing that will foil you guys' plans. Like, the one thing that will help her get Christmas back and whatever. And, like, there's only her, some dopey little fucking dude, just, like, you could easily take both of them out, I would think. If you're supposed to be such a big assassin or whatever. Or hell, you're a fucking chef, if nothing else. You're bound to have some knives on you. You can't tell me that you couldn't take out some dopey little dweeb and a fucking elf girl who can't fight for shit, I'd imagine. Like, you could have just taken them out right then and there, and there's the end of the movie. Hooray! Christmas is ruined, whatever. Not that it would matter in this universe. he follows them back outside. Well, actually, he goes outside ahead of them somehow, and he places a tracker on her car. At least I assume it's a tracker. It's not really said, but I assume that's what it's supposed to be. But he attaches that to her car, and he hides behind a tree as the two of them come out to her car. And fucking Bart notices her little glitter things that are hanging on her belt, the glitter puffs I mentioned earlier. And he just like casually like, "Oh, can I try one?" And so he like unscrews it, and it starts billowing with smoke. First of all, he doesn't even let her answer him. He just like, "Oh, can I try one?" And he just starts to unscrew it. And like a bunch of smoke starts billowing out, green smoke, because it's green glitter on the side. And so he throws it, and it basically just has like this smoke bomb effect, and like nearly chokes out fucking Ernest. It's hanging on the tree. And they even make a fucking like cheesy little joke about like, "Oh, I hate to be on the other side of that." It's like, ha ha ha, we get it. Okay, so funny. Oh my god. So, Elfette gets back on the road, and meanwhile we see Sparkles back at her house, in her little research area again. She gets a call from somebody, we don't know really who, but the gist of the call is that they think there's like a man on the inside, a mole, working for the Mafia inside the North Pole. In other words, there's an elf that's going to be like against them, more or less. And we immediately meet her because we see Sebastian call Elfette, and she tries to get her to come back to the North Pole to, honestly, she doesn't really give her a good excuse. She just asks her to come back to the North Pole. So clearly she's the mole, And we also see Georgie trying to bribe Santa. He tries to get him to write down a number. It's like, whatever number, however how you want, I'll pay you anything. Just retire, stop making gifts, basically. Instead of writing a number, he gives him he writes down some kind of toy. It's like some kind of rocket toy or something. He writes the name of it. And apparently it's some toy that Georgie wanted, back when he was a child, but didn't get. Well, because he was a naughty piece of shit, I'm guessing. But keep that information in your back pocket, because it does become relevant later, believe it or not. You can see Elfette on the road again, like I was saying, as he picks up a hitchhiker. And here's one fun fact that I could find on here, is that this hitchhiker is actually played by the director of the movie. His name is Christian Kashmir. So he cameos basically as this hitchhiker character named Dewey. Yeah, so they get on the road together. He has he starts to try to smoke, and he packs the tobacco in his pipe. He has an old school pipe. He has what Elfette herself calls a Gandalf pipe, which she doesn't know a lot about other human culture, it seems like, right? She doesn't know about money, obviously. She doesn't fucking, seem to understand how, human diets work, based on, your talk at the fucking restaurant and stuff, but she knows about human movies, I guess, apparently, because she knows what Lord of the Rings is, and she knows who Gandalf is. Also, this man fucking stuffs tea in his pipe as well. He says it, enhances the flavor of the smoke, apparently. I don't fucking know. Because he keeps talking about tea and stuff. So she makes him, they stop at some point during the road trip. I guess they just make a little small pit stop or whatever in a field for some reason. And she gives him this stuff they call it missile finger, because it's mistletoe, but it's stronger, so it's missile finger. You get it, guys? Anyways, she puts that in his tea, and he basically hallucinates, because he starts looking at the clouds, and he starts seeing, all kinds of strange shit. And she's concerned for a minute. She looks inside the vial, and it says, has a little label, or whatever, I guess. We don't see it as an audience, but apparently it says that it's not to be used for human consumption. And she just throws the vial away for some reason. She could have just put it back in her pocket, but no, she just chucks it after reading that. So they drive off, continuing on their road trip, and Ernest, who's been following them, I guess because of the tracker, obviously, which really he wouldn't need to have a tracker on if he's just following her. He could just fucking follow her, I guess, in case he loses her. Anywho, he comes by, and he takes the vial that she had, the missile finger, and he sees the warning on it, but he doesn't care. He drinks them anyways. And for some reason, it just gives him a fucking Alvin the Chipmunk's voice. They just speed up his voice and make him sound all high pitched and stuff. So meanwhile, we also see the Joytech CEO meeting up with Georgie. She's like demanding him to get rid of Elfette already because it's gone on for so long. She gives him some kind of device. It looks like a detonator or something. I believe it's for. Well, we'll get to that later. But anyways, Elfette finally arrives at Dewey's home. Well, it's his mother's home really, but he still lives there despite being a 30-year-old man or whatever. Anywho, he offers her to stay the night, but she declines at first, and she gets a call from Santa Claus while she's still in the driveway. Santa Claus tells her that she must take the twink-meter and place it atop a tree by midnight on Christmas Eve, and that it will, I don't know, it'll do something somehow to save Christmas. Something with the twinkles and sparkles of Christmas magic or something bullshit like that. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm not going to pretend that it does. I'm not going to pretend that any of this movie makes sense. Don't ask me, I just work here, okay? So after she gets that call, she goes ahead and takes up Dewey on his offer after all. And she learns at this, at the home, she learns that Bart and Dewey are related. Oh yeah, Dewey's the other one who has this weird fucking accent I was mentioning earlier. It's not as strong on Bart, but it's really strong on Dewey. Like, you can tell he has like an accent, but from where is very, very hard to tell, honestly. Because, like, it's impossible for me to figure out where it's supposed to be from. I think it's supposed to be like a Irish accent. It sounds like a really cartoony Irish accent. And that's my best guess. But I could be wrong. But anyway, he tells her that she should take that device, the Twinkometer, to the Big Apple and put it on the tree up there. The one in Times Square, basically. So in the morning, Dewey leaves her this pocket watch that he says, like, oh, this has always helped me in my journeys. What journeys have you gone on, dude? But whatever. And so maybe it'll help her on yours. And so she leaves the home. We get like a tourist montage of her just like running around, taking pictures of shit. It's like, Elfette, you have a mission. You're supposed to be fucking saving Christmas. What are you doing? Also, where'd you get a camera from? Did you steal that too? Can we put that as like your fourth crime, that you stole a camera? Because I'd be happy with doing that. But as she's doing her little montage, some random dude like gives her an invitation to a holiday party, and she stupidly goes to it. And of course, the party is a fucking trap. Because at the party is Georgie and the like sidekick guy, or whatever he is. I didn't mention him yet, but there's this like sidekick guy that is always around Georgie. He has like no lines of dialogue, I remember, or like barely any if he does. And he's kind of just a himbo, honestly. He doesn't do anything. He's just really stupid. So, I don't know. But, so somehow Elfette talks to Georgie, right? And somehow she knows that he's the one who kidnapped Santa Claus. Which I don't know how she knows that. In fact, I don't know how she knew, like, anything. I guess they told her that he was in New York, so that's the best I can understand for that part. But I don't think they ever told her who the kidnapper was, what he looked like, where Santa was being held, even. All of which are very important, considering she's supposed to be saving Christmas and saving Santa Claus. But I guess maybe the Twinkometer was supposed to do that, which they also didn't tell her how to do that. She learned that from a random-ass fucking mole elf who, for some reason, knew about it, I guess. Or at least knew about a person who would help her get this elf device. Anyways, enough trying to apply logic to this movie. Actually, I'm kidding, I'm going to continue that. But, so Georgie tries to bribe her to come work at Joytech instead of MTitch, the North Pole, basically. And he also tells her that Sparkles is its secret agent, so he reveals that secret to her. She doesn't believe him on that, and she runs away, like, all crying and stuff. And after the brief, like, little thing of her running, she just goes to the treatment in Times Square, and she tries to get the Twinkometer to work, and, like, nothing happens. Like, she just kind of, like, shoves it towards the sky, towards the treetop, and, like, nothing happens, of course, because, like, she didn't do anything. They say you're supposed to, like, use your belief in Christmas and all this kind of stuff, and it's gonna make the Twinkometer work. And it's like, well, if she's an elf and she doesn't believe in Christmas, that's pretty bad, honestly. But this doesn't last very long because there's a guard nearby, like a cop or whatever, and he literally like points to a sign and just says like, "Hey, no elves allowed. Get you out of here." It's like, so again, we're acknowledging that elves do exist canonically in this universe. But, like, there's one, like, for example, earlier, I forgot to mention this, but in the diner scene when she's getting the pancakes, the waiter seems very, like, confused about the idea that she's an actual elf. When she tries to tell him that. He's like, what do you mean? What? Huh? And it's funny because, like, he asks her for a picture because he's like, oh, my kiddo really loves Christmas. Can I get a picture of you? It's not even with her, it's just of her. But then he acts confused about the idea that she's an elf. It's like, the elves canonically exist in your universe. Like, because you guys apparently know that Santa Claus exists, because the corporations definitely know he exists. I don't think it'd be public knowledge that Santa Claus exists in this universe, but who fucking knows? Anyway, she mopes around town for a while, before eventually Ernest finds her, and he reveals that he had a little help with Sebastian, the other elf girl. And there's a very, very topical fucking quote that Sebastian says during this part as well, when they're talking about, like, why she's, like, betraying the North Pole and stuff, and she says the line, quote, "The corporations own Christmas now," which, honestly, she's not wrong. Christmas has gotten so commercial at this time. I mean, think about it. We start setting up for Christmas at stores before Thanksgiving's even over, before Halloween's even over most of the time, in fact. So, like, the corporations definitely do own Christmas, like, at this point. So, yeah, very topical, very realistic. Thank you. That's what I needed in my Christmas escapism fantasy movie, was to be reminded that, capitalism exists. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted from this Christmas movie. Thank you. Thank you so much, Elfette Saves Christmas. So, she gets kidnapped, and he takes her back to, I don't know, somewhere. They're in a room. The room with a bunch of kid cooking stuff, so I'm assuming it's his house or something. But she has a sack over her head and everything, and she very easily takes that off of her head. She has her hands bound, but she very easily gets the sack off her head, and then, like, she very easily just, like, twists her hands around, and the fucking hand ropes just fall off. So, like, very good job, guys. Like, all they did was very loosely tie her back to a chair, and that's it. Like, they put a rope around her stomach and around the chair, like, and tied it up. And then they put her arms in front of her and tied them up. Like, these people are so dumb. But anyways, before she can really do anything, Ernest comes back in and he starts talking to her about how he's going to cook her up and put her in a... He starts talking about, like, making a smoothie out of her, which is like, you were in a stew earlier, so now you want to make a smoothie, I guess? I don't know, whatever. That's what putting her in a blender, so I imagine he's making a smoothie. Once again, cannibalism. Hooray. Sparkle peeks into the room because she somehow has gotten here, and there's a very drawn-out scene of her, like, trying to, like, mime to Elfette what, like, she needs to do. It takes way too long for her to get the fucking point across. But what it ends up being is that she needs to take the missile finger out and, like, give some to the chef guy, which she manages to get the vial of the missile finger, which I guess she had another vial of at some point. I don't know where she got it from, but whatever. Anyways, she had it in her belt, so she gets able to get it out, but she drops it. Doesn't matter though, because the fucking guy takes it on his own. Fucking self-medicates, I guess. And then he starts hallucinating and talking in his little fucking chipmunk voice again. I always assume he's like hallucinating because he starts talking about, like, oh my god, I can see a rainbow and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, whatever, man, sure, yeah. It's the equivalent of, like, those people who, like, try to talk about drugs and they just like, I can smell colors, man, or something like that. Anyways, Sparkles comes over while he's, like, dazed and whatnot, and she puts a sack over his head and ties him up, but very loosely, because no one knows how to tie anything correctly in this fucking movie. But Georgie calls him up, and because the chef is easily able to get out of the restraints and stuff, but not before Elfette and Sparkles are able to run away and get out of the house, or wherever the fuck they're being held. So Georgie calls him as he's running after them and, like, untying himself at the same time, and basically Georgie just fires him because of his incompetence, which he should have done a lot sooner, honestly. And then we just have a random fucking Elfette randomly outbursts at Sparkles for not telling her that she was a secret agent, and just runs away. She doesn't even give her a chance to apologize or say anything. She's like, I can't believe you lied to me, and just runs basically. But doesn't matter, because now Elfette meets a random ass old man in the park, and they have a talk about the Christmas spirit, and he gives her some weirdly shaped box that supposedly she'll know what to do with it, he says. Meanwhile, back at the kidnapping house with Georgie, they've now got Mrs. Claus captive as well, and they're trying to use her as leverage to get Santa to talk. He still doesn't talk, though. He won't tell them about his gift machine or whatever. But so they take her away, and they freeze her off screen. And George explains that if Santa doesn't give up soon, all the elves will be frozen for permanently. Because if they don't become unfrozen by midnight on Christmas Eve, or midnight on Christmas Day, I think it is actually. Either way, no, midnight on Christmas Eve, yeah. And all of them will be frozen forever, and they can't be unfrozen. So after that, we see Elfette wrapping up the gift, the box that is, rather. That strangely shaped box that the random old man gave her. She starts wrapping that up in some wrapping paper. And we get a random fucking musical number out of nowhere. And to be honest with you, I really tuned it out. So I could not tell you what the song is about. And I really don't have a desire to go back and watch it. So find out for yourself, I suppose, if you really want, if you're really curious, because it wasn't really that significant. It also had no fucking point to it, so it was just there for some reason. Oh, also, during the musical number, we see the other elves singing, but how? Because the only elves that were not frozen that we know of are Sebastian, who's helping the Mafia, Sparkles, the secret agent, of course, and our titular Elfette. So these three are the only ones who are not frozen, but yet, in the musical number scene, we get to see the elves at the North Pole singing it as well, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, Sparkles finds Elfette in the park, and they try to, but it's too late. The bells starts to toll for, to show that it's midnight now, so that means Christmas Eve is over, and yeah, she has failed. It's too late now, right? Or so we think. Sparkles explains, remember I gave you the silver tinsel earlier that can rewind time. All you need is a timepiece, a clock, or some kind. And here's where Dewey's little pocket watch that he gave her comes in handy. So, you would think there'd be some elaborate way you have to use this right to get it to work, or something. You wanna know what she does? She takes some tinsel out. Just a little bundle of tinsel. Doesn't even, it's not just a little string of tinsel or something. No, it's just a little, clump of tinsel that she just places inside the pocket watch and closes it. That apparently is all you need to do to go back in time. So, yeah, no. DeLoreans? Nah, get them out of here. Phone booths? No, screw them. What do you need? Tinsel and a fucking pocket watch. That's all you need to go back in time, guys. It's that easy. So, it only, it turns back enough to, I guess, be, I guess it's, enough time to be still enough time. I think it only goes back a few hours, they say, so it really doesn't. So, but regardless, she and Sparkles, hug a tree and start to do some kind of chant, and that somehow, I guess, revives the Christmas spirit or something, and unfreezes the elves at the North Pole. So, yeah, I guess the Twinkometer was pointless, considering they didn't need it after all, because I guess, the real Twinkometer was the friends we made along the way. I don't know. So we see all the elves at the North Pole if unfrozen now because of their magical tree hugging, I guess. I don't fucking know. But then we get to see back at Georgie's place, and this was one of my favorite scenes in this movie, actually. it's a shame it's not fucking real. Unfortunately, must inform you that it is not fucking real. It is a dream. I'm about to explain to you. But God, I wish it was real because it was so fucking funny. So, we're back at Georgie's place or whatever, wherever the fuck Santa's being held, right? And, he basically just loses his patience with kidnappers. And he literally says something about, like, oh, you jive turkeys have gotten me fed up or something like that. I forget exactly what he says, but he does call them jive turkeys. I am not making that up. Oh yeah, and Santa Claus in this movie is black also. So that's a very stereotypical fucking thing to make him say also, I have to say. But anyways, he's like very easily like breaks out his restraints, like just pulls him over his head basically, and just whips out a shotgun and shoots them both. And I was like so fucking ready to be like, fuck yes, Santa Claus, hell yeah, you got a fucking Santa Claus with a shotgun, hell yeah, I was ready to cheer for his ass. Too bad it's actually just the dream that the other fucking kidnapper is having, the himbo guy. So, you know, very unfortunate. So he wakes up for real this time, but still, you know, in the kidnapping room. George explains that he has a missile that he's prepared to launch at the North Pole if Santa doesn't give it to his man still. And how easy is it to get a missile if you're in the Mafia? Because, like, rhetorical question, obviously, but I can't imagine it's any easier to get a missile as a Mafia person than it is, like, to get a missile if you're a freaking, like, normal person. Like, I mean, Mafia excels at getting, like, firearms, sure, and drugs and whatnot. But missiles? I'm not so sure about that. But it turns out that's what that fucking device was, because I guess the Joytech person got it for him, actually. Which also makes even less sense. How the fuck did a toy company that also makes phones get a missile, but whatever. But yeah, the device that was handed to him earlier was, I guess, the detonator for this missile, whatever you want to call it. Firing mechanism, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, but then, out of nowhere, Elfette and Sparkles come in, and Sparkles immediately gets fucking shot. By a real gun, by the way, not by a fucking freeze ray, by a real-ass gun. She gets shot in the arm, but still, it was funny to me. Which I know is bad, but it was funny as fuck to me. She just randomly gets shot. Anyways, so Elfette has that present that she was wrapping earlier, remember? The one that the random old man gave her? So she hands it to Georgie, and he opens it, and inside is that toy rocket ship thing that Santa Claus had mentioned earlier in the movie. The thing that Georgie had wanted when he was a child. And as soon as he sees it, it's like he de-ages or something, because he opens up the box and he immediately starts playing with it like an actual child. I mean, like, props to him for, like, letting his inner child heal or whatever, I guess, but, like, it still felt, like, really fucking out of character for him. But, with this, he, like, realizes the error of his way, and he deactivates the missile. So then they go ahead and untie Santa Claus, but when I say untie, they don't even really untie him. They just kind of lift the ropes over his body. Like, he wasn't even like tied up. He was just very loosely like had a rope around him, I guess. So sure, why not? But then we get a closing montage here. So first we get to see some families opening presents, and they're opening the new pencil phone. Then we see the guy from the car lot, not the dealership owner, but the redheaded dude who was trying to talk down the dealership owner earlier. He took the candy canes to like an appraisal shop, like to a jewelry shop, like where you'd go to sell diamonds or buy diamonds. And the appraiser guy there tells him that apparently these candy canes are made of like, I forget the like exact term he uses, but it's like Christmas diamonds basically, or something. And he says that they're worth $1 million each. So that means that each candy cane is worth $1 million. She had given 15 to the dealership man for the car. So that means this random stranger is now getting $15 million for a bunch of candy canes. Meanwhile, the dealership owner is still, like, out of his car that he was supposed to fucking have. Which, he only sold for $15,000, or was going to sell for $15,000, and didn't get a single cent from her. And now we'll never see that money because he gave the fucking bag of money, basically, to this other random customer who didn't buy anything from him. Also, what possessed the man to go to this appraiser to get them appraised? Like, was there any fucking indication that they weren't actually candy? Like, was he just, like, suspicious because she gave them as candy? I don't fucking know. Okay, we're almost done with this. We also see a news report of the CEO of Joytech getting arrested after the whole scandal of trying to kidnap Santa Claus and all that. And then our last scene that we get to see is Georgie in the North Pole. And they get him all fitted up for an elf costume, and we find out that apparently that stranger from the park was Georgie's dad. And Georgie is talking to him on the phone and telling him, you know, I've seen the error of my ways and all this kind of stuff, and now I'm going to be working here in the North Pole as an elf. So sure, why not? So now the ex-mafia boss is a fucking Christmas elf. Because of course he is, why not? And that's everything. That's the end for us. That was Elfette Saves Christmas. And it's a movie. I can say that much. It definitely did not feel like something that was made, like, within this decade. Like, I thought for sure that it was going to be, like, that when I looked it up some more, that it would be, like, from, like, the 2000s or something, like 2002 or something like that. But no, it's from fucking 2019. I couldn't really find anything about budget, so I'm guessing it was probably non-existent, basically. So, it would not surprise me at all. But regardless of all that, it was still kind of a fun watch through for, like, this, just for the sense of, like, how absurd it was. So, like, it was like, you heard me talk about all the random and stupid shit that happened in this movie. I mean, I ranted so much that I'm way over the runtime I usually would be at for this kind of movie. And it's just... it just baffles me, the kind of shit that happens in this. The continuity errors, the weird fucking... just everything. It makes no sense. It makes no attempt at making sense, either. But I'll give it this, it is fun to think about, and it is fun to nitpick at it. God, is it strange. But, maybe you'll enjoy it too, if you want to check it out still, of course. It is on Tubi, like I said earlier. But that about wraps up all my things I have to say on it. It's a ride, for sure. Okay, next time I'll be checking out the TMNT Christmas special called We Wish You a Turtle Christmas from 1994. It is a really bad musical Christmas special, which you can watch on YouTube, by the way, if you want to check it out. And it is so bad. So very, very bad. That one might be a bit of a shorter episode, personally, because it is a very short special, but we'll see. But yeah, that's what's up next for us. And Turtles is actually like one of my favorite properties, so I might have a little bit of a rant about that, but we'll see. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm really glad that you stayed this long. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to follow this podcast for more content, to follow me on Twitter for updates and scheduling at BFE Podcasts, and to email any suggestions you may have to broadcastfromelsewhere@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Enigma, signing off. Have a Merry Christmas.